Chapter 54. Krishna defeats all the princes and takes Rukmini home to Dwaraka. Jarasandha and all the other princes were very angry at Krishna for having kidnapped Rukmini. Struck by Rukmini's beauty, they had fallen from the backs of their horses and elephants, but now they began to stand up and properly arm themselves. Picking up their bows and arrows, they began to chase Krishna on their chariots, horses, and elephants. To check their progress, the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty turned and faced them. Thus, terrible fighting began between the two belligerent groups. The princes opposing Krishna, who were led by Jarasandha and were all expert in fighting, shot their arrows at the Yadu soldiers just as a cloud splashes the face of a mountain with torrents of rain. Gathered on the face of a mountain, a cloud does not move very much, and therefore the force of rain is much more severe on a mountain than anywhere else. The opposing princes were determined to defeat Krishna and recapture Rukmini from his custody, and they fought with him as severely as possible. Rukmini, seated by the side of Krishna, saw arrows raining from the opposing party onto the faces of the Yadu soldiers. In a fearful attitude, she looked upon Krishna's face, expressing her gratefulness that he had taken such a great risk for her sake only. Her eyes moving, she appeared sorry, and Krishna, who could immediately understand her mind, encouraged her with these words: "My dear Rukmini, don't worry. Please rest assured that the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty will kill all the opposing soldiers without delay." As Krishna was speaking with Rukmini, the commanders of the Yadu dynasty's soldiers, headed by Lord Balaram, who is also known as Sankarshana, as well as by Gada, not tolerating the defiant attitude of the opposing soldiers, began to strike their horses, elephants, and chariots with arrows. As the fighting progressed, the princes and soldiers of the enemy began to fall from their horses, elephants, and chariots. Within a short time, millions of severed heads, decorated with helmets and earrings, had fallen on the battlefield. The soldiers' hands were severed along with their bows and arrows and clubs. Arms were piled upon arms, thighs upon thighs, horses upon horses. Similarly, other animals such as camels, elephants, and asses, as well as infantry soldiers, all fell with severed heads. When the enemy, headed by Jarasandha, found that they were gradually being defeated by the soldiers of Krishna, they thought it unwise to risk losing their armies in the battle for the sake of Shishupal. Shishupal himself should have fought to rescue Rukmini from the hands of Krishna. But when the soldiers saw that Shishupal was not competent to fight Krishna, they decided not to lose their armies unnecessarily. Therefore, they ceased fighting and dispersed. Some of the princes, as a matter of etiquette, appeared before Shishupal. They saw that Shishupal was discouraged, like one who had lost his wife. His face appeared dried up. He had lost all his energy, and all the luster of his body had disappeared. They addressed Shishupal thus: "Our dear Shishupal, don't be discouraged in this way. You belong to the royal order and are the chief amongst the fighters. There's no question of distress or happiness for a person like you, because neither of these conditions is everlasting. Take courage. Don't be disappointed by this temporary reversal. After all, we are not the final actors. As puppets dance in the hands of a magician, we are all dancing by the will of the Supreme. And according to His plan alone, we suffer distress or enjoy happiness. We should therefore be equipoised in all circumstances. Unquote. Although in the beginning the princes had been full of hope for success in their heroic action, after their defeat, they could not only try to encourage Shishupal with after their defeat, they could only try to encourage Shishupal with flattering words. Thus, Shishupal, instead of marrying Rukmini, had to be satisfied with the flattering words of his friends, and he returned home in disappointment. The kings who had come to assist him, also disappointed, then returned to their respective kingdoms. The whole catastrophe of the defeat was due to the envious nature of Rukmini's elder brother Rukmi. Having seen his sister forcibly taken away by Krishna after he had planned to marry her to Shishupal, Rukmi was frustrated. So after Shishupal, his friend and intended brother-in-law, returned home, Rukmi, very much agitated, was determined to teach Krishna a lesson personally. He called for his own soldiers, a military phalanx existing of several thousand elephants, horses, chariots, and infantry, and equipped with this military strength, he began to follow Krishna to Dwaraka. To show his prestige, Rukmi promised all the returning kings, "You could not help Shishupal marry my sister Rukmini, but I cannot allow Rukmini to be taken away by Krishna. I shall teach him a lesson. Now I'm going to follow him." He presented himself as a big commander and vowed before all the princes, "Unless I kill Krishna in the fight and bring back my sister from his clutches, I shall not return to my capital city, Kundina. I make this vow before you all, and you will see that I shall fulfill it." After thus vibrating all these boasting words, Rukmi immediately got on his chariot and told his chariot driver to pursue Krishna. He said, "I want to fight with him immediately. This coward boy has become proud of his tricky way of fighting with Kshatriyas. But today I shall teach him a good lesson. Because he had the impudence to kidnap my sister, I, with my sharp arrows, shall teach him very good lessons indeed." Thus, this unintelligent man, Rukmi, ignorant of the extent of the strength and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, voiced his impudent threats. In great stupidity, he soon stood before Krishna, telling him repeatedly, "Stop for a minute and fight with me." After saying this, he drew his bow and directly shot 3 forceful arrows against Krishna's body. Then he condemned Krishna as the most abominable descendant of the Yadu dynasty and asked him to stand before him for a minute so that he could teach him a good lesson. Quote, "You are carrying away my sister just like a crow stealing clarified butter meant for use in a sacrifice. You are proud of your military strength, but you cannot fight according to regulative principles. You have stolen my sister. Now I shall relieve you of your false prestige. You can keep my sister in your possession only until I beat you to the ground for good with my arrows. Lord Krishna, after hearing all these crazy words from Rukmi, immediately shot an arrow and severed the string of Rukmi's bow, making him unable to use another arrow. Rukmi immediately took another bow and shot another 5 arrows at Krishna. Being attacked for the second time, Krishna again severed Rukmi's bowstring. Rukmi took a third bow, and Krishna again cut its string. This time, to teach Rukmi a lesson, Krishna shot 6 arrows at him and then shot another 8 arrows, killing 4 horses with 4 arrows, killing the chariot driver with another arrow, and chopping off the upper portion of Rukmi's chariot, including the flag, with the remaining 3 arrows. Rukmi, having run out of arrows, took assistance from swords, shields, tridents, lances, and similar weapons used for fighting hand to hand. But Krishna immediately broke them all in the same way. Being repeatedly baffled in his attempts, Rukmi took his sword and ran swiftly towards Krishna, just as a fly proceeds towards a fire. But as soon as Rukmi reached Krishna, Krishna cut his weapon to pieces. This time, Krishna took out his sharp sword and was about to kill him immediately. But Rukmi's sister, Rukmini, understanding that this time Krishna would not excuse her brother, fell down at Krishna's lotus feet and in a very grievous tone, trembling with great fear, began to plead with her husband.
Now I thought we might divide the chapter because it goes a little long and we have a short class today and a short class tomorrow, right? So I thought we could divide it, and this is a sensible place for dividing it. We don't get our full quota of reading this evening, but seems like a decent strategy, wouldn't you say? Okay. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadha Mahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Can I have some water? So Krishna, in the previous chapter, kidnapped Rukmini from the midst of Shishupal and Shishupal's friends, like Jarasandha. The kings had all been stunned by Rukmini's beauty. They all harbored lusty desires to have her as their wife. But they were standing behind Shishupal, and now it's almost like a comic scene. They've all slid from their horses to the ground, struck by Rukmini's beauty, and now they get up again and they grab their weapons, and they sound like those who remember the Keystone Cops, which is no one, but it's a comic it's a comic scene, certainly. But now they get serious, and they begin to chase Krishna. And meanwhile, the Yadu soldiers turn around and face them. And there's a Jarasandha and his armies are raining arrows down on the Yadu dynasty, the way a cloud rains down on a mountain. And they fought with determination to teach Krishna a lesson and recapture Rukmini. Rukmini is seeing this, and her face is fearful. But Krishna encourages her, don't worry about it. Our Yadu dynasty soldiers will take care of them. And in fact, the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty, headed by Lord Balaram, began striking the enemy forces, and they're quickly being defeated. So the allies of Shishupal, seeing that Shishupal was incapable, he couldn't really do anything, thought, why should we risk our men and our forces for this loser, basically? They saw it as a losing proposition. Shishupal himself should have fought. What's in it for us? Why should we lose our power fighting with this army? So they gave up fighting and dispersed. And meanwhile, some of the princes, Prabhupada said as a matter of etiquette, appeared before Shishupal to encourage him. Much like the friends of Jarasandha. As you'll recall, Jarasandha lost terribly to Krishna. All of his own forces were wiped out, and Krishna didn't lose anyone. But the ministers and friends of Jarasandha came to encourage him, no, it was just a fluke, you're the better fighter. So here again, they try to encourage, Shishupal's friends try to encourage him, you're a great fighter, and there's no question of happiness or distress for you. This is all temporary, so this is a temporary setback. Things are not in our hands, it's all up to the Supreme. But there was a slogan I saw. Actually, it's a slogan, I won't tell you the context, but what is it? Quitters can't win, winners don't quit. right? Quitters don't win, and winners don't quit. So if you leave the game, you can't win. But if you stay in the game, there's always, fate can turn in your favor. So they encouraged Shishupal, stay in the game. We should be equipoised and not overwhelmed by failure or success. And Prabhupada comments that the princes had been full of hope of succeeding in their heroic attack on the Yadu dynasty, but after they were defeated, all they could do was flatter Sisupal. And Sishupal, instead of marrying Rukmini, had to be satisfied with the flattering words of his friends. So Shishupal returned home disappointed, the kings returned to their kingdoms disappointed, and now attention turns to Rukmi. You'll recall that he was the one who arranged the marriage, although his father wanted, and practically everyone wanted her to marry Krishna, but Rukmi settled on Shishupal. So Rukmi was frustrated, and he, in that frustrated mentality, was determined to teach Krishna a lesson. That means he's a fool. This is called, I guess in psychology, obsessive compulsive behavior, right? There's really no hope that he's going to win. Jarasandha, who's superior, has been defeated 18 times practically. So now Rukmi is going to teach Krishna a lesson. So that means foolish and stubborn and obstinate. So he gathers an army of several thousand soldiers and elephants and so on. And now he's going to boast. There's a lot of boasting that goes on by the Kshatriyas. It seems to be one of their characteristics. So you couldn't do anything, but I'll teach him a lesson. So I'm going to follow him. And he took a vow that unless I defeat Krishna and bring my sister, deliver my sister from his clutches, I won't return to Kundin. And in front of you, I make this vow, and you'll see that I keep it. So then he told his charioteer to take off after Krishna. This cowherd boy has become proud of his tricky way of fighting with Kshatriyas, but today I shall teach him a good lesson. Maybe we should look and see what kind of Saraswati Vak is there. I'm sure there is. You can find out what verse from there. He's a tricky cowherd boy who's become, he's a cowherd boy, he's become proud of his tricky way of fighting with Kshatriyas, but today I'll teach him a lesson. So this unintelligent man, fool that is, Rukmi, ignorant of the extent of the strength and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, voiced his impudent threats. Prabhupada mentions this, why do people not surrender to Krishna, living entities not surrender to Krishna? And Prabhupada, in one purport, attributes it to impious activities and stubborn obstinacy. Just stubborn obstinacy. So we see that here. Impious activities must be in the background. If he were pious, he'd surrender to Krishna, or he'd be happy to marry his sister to Krishna. But instead, he's opposing Krishna. So that's his impious background and his stubborn obstinacy. Foolish stubborn obstinacy. In great stupidity, he soon stood before Krishna, telling him repeatedly, "Stop for a minute, fight with me. Stop for a minute and fight with me." Elsewhere, Prabhupada, Tishta, Tishta. Tishta means stand. You know, don't run away. Stand and fight with me. Found it?
Yeah.
Saraswati's at work here.
Not that verse, but there
Let's see. Mhm. The Jiva Goswami comments, we won't go into things here, that Rukmi's vow that I'll defeat him or I won't come back to my capital, Kundin, was like a prediction of the future. So you stand and fight with me, and now there's more verses. There again, Saraswati might be at work. He drew his bow, shot 3 arrows against Krishna, condemned Krishna as the most abominable descendant of the Yadu dynasty, and said, "You're carrying away my sister like a crow, stealing ghee meant for use in a sacrifice. You're proud of your military strength, but you can't fight according to regulative principles. You've stolen my sister, now I'll relieve you of your false prestige. You can only keep my sister until I beat you to the ground with my arrows." So that's his vituperation, as Prabhupada would say. And Krishna, after hearing all these crazy words from Rukmi, it's really crazy, shot an arrow, severed the string of Rukmi's bow. Rukmi takes another bow. Krishna does the same thing, again. Then finally, Krishna shoots 6 arrows at him, 8 arrows killing his 4 horses, 4 arrows, four arrows to kill 4 horses, 1 to kill the chariot driver, 1 to chop off the upper portion of Rukmi's chariot, including the flag. Well, that's 3 arrows he does that with. So he's basically, before even Rukmi got started, he wiped him out. An intelligent person under such circumstances surrenders. I remember, I'm not a chess fan, but I know there was some famous match between, maybe it was Boris Spassky, one of the great Russian grandmasters, and it could have been that American fellow, I've forgotten his name. Fisher, not Barry Fisher, he was our lawyer. Fisher. Bobby Fischer, yeah, thank you. And or it could have been 2 others, but anyway, a fight between 2 masters, and one was like ahead. He had, he knocked off more pieces, he was in a strong position, and he resigned. And all the chess journalists, the people who cover these matches for the New York Times and so on, they're like blinking their eyes. What's going on? But the chess master had seen that although I'm in what looks like the superior position, I can't win the game, and I can't even bring it to a draw. So he resigned. There was a certain brilliance to that, even though he was the loser. He was ahead of the game in that sense that he understood, I've lost. I had a cousin, anyway, I'm not going to sit here and tell you mundane stories. One's enough. So Rukmi didn't get it. He should have seen. I just got wiped out in the first few moments of battle. My bowstrings were all cut again and again. My chariot's been destroyed. My charioteer's been killed. I can't win. But having run out of arrows, he took assistance from swords, shields, tridents, lances, everything for hand-to-hand fighting, and Krishna broke them the same way. And baffled again and again, Rukmi took his sword and ran toward Krishna like a fly proceeding toward a fire. And again, Krishna cut his weapon to pieces, and now, with his sharp sword, Krishna's ready to kill him. And Rukmini understood that this time Krishna wasn't going to excuse Rukmi, so she fell at Krishna's lotus feet and, in a grievous tone, trembling with fear, began to plead with her husband for her brother's life. And that's where we're ending our reading today. Yes?
Found some Saraswati Vak, I think.
You found some Saraswati Vak there? Yeah, okay. Let's see what happened.
So when he says without...
close to your...
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Vishwanath Chakravarti. He says the sentence, without killing Krishna and bringing back Rukmini, I will not enter Kundina. And then he says, another meaning is, not having recognized Krishna and liberated Rukmini, I will not enter Kundina.
Yeah. That's not exactly Saraswati Vak, but it's the acharyas are expert at pulling out different and often opposite meanings that give us a further appreciation of the text. Yeah.
I have the same for the other part, but the next one I also have the same, but...
Yeah. Okay. Something else? Yeah.
In our chess game with matter.
Say it again.
In our chess game with matter.
In our chess game.
With matter.
With matter.
Yeah. We know we are checkmate, but still we play the game. So how can we give up that hope that we will win?
Janiya Shunya Vishakoinu. Narottam Das Thakur says, I've heard and I've seen that it's poison, and still I'm drinking it. So the only hope, he points out, is the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. On our own power, Amamaya Duratiyaya. There's no defeating Maya. There's no even calling a truce or something. That we're lost before we start. So the only ma meviye prapadyante maya me tam tarantite. We have to surrender, and then Krishna will be kind. And our object of surrender, especially in the Kali Yuga, is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's more merciful than Krishna. Is that all right? Yes.
There's this sentence about
You have to
Rukmini.
hold that microphone quite unhygienically close.
Oh. In this sentence, Rukmi's sister, Rukmini, understanding that this time Krishna would not excuse her brother, I found interesting that they said this time. So
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, because there wasn't another time when Krishna did excuse him. But yeah, I don't know if there's what to make of that either. Let's see if there's something we can find in the Bhagavatam itself. Well, the Bhagavatam doesn't specifically say this time. Drishtva bratra vidho yogam, rukmini bhaya vibhala, patitva padayor bhartur, uvacha karunam sati. Just seeing that Krishna was ready to kill him. So, I don't think we have to assign a lot of importance to this time. Somehow it's there, but it doesn't seem crucial. Something else? Yes.
I took it.
Oh, you don't even need a microphone.
I took it that Krishna gave a warning shot. Okay. Okay. I took it that Krishna, the first time, killed the chariot driver, killed the 4 horses, broke bowstrings. That was first time. Now Rukmi still wants to. Okay, now this time.
Yeah, from that point of view, Krishna had already spared him because he played with him. He just broke his bowstring. He could have broke his neck. He killed his charioteer and his horses. He could have just as easily killed Rukmi. So from that point of view, yes, that he showed a little mercy toward poor, insignificant Rukmi and didn't kill him right away. But this time now, Krishna is going to do him in. Good explanation. Thank you. There was yes in the back.
Thank you, Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was just sort of thinking if one of the gopis was in Rukmini's position, how would she have reacted? Would she have pleaded with him or just told Krishna?
How would the gopis have reacted if they'd been in Rukmini's position? No, well, that's a totally speculative question. We might ask which gopi, because different gopis respond different ways to the same situation. But the Rukmini is a gopi that is expanded from, she's an expansion of Srimati Radharani. When Krishna expands, then Radha as Narayan and so on, then Radharani expands. So the Rukmini is already an expansion of Srimati Radharani, and we see how she responds. Is that okay? Yes, behind you.
Hare Krishna. We can repeatedly hear this circumstance when between Kshatriyas there's a discussion when one try to solace another one,
Whoa, slower.
when one trying to pacify another one, you are don't please be occupied in defeat or victory. So
Is anyone hearing this? When trying to console another kshatriya, advising him to be equipoised in victory or defeat.
And it seems like they well aware about the supreme, about the supreme authority of the Supreme Lord.
It seems that they're aware of the authority of the Supreme Lord, or at least destiny, fate, the Supreme, yes.
They don't know that supreme will is Shri Krishna.
Yes, they don't know that the Supreme is Krishna.
So only this one detail makes them actually sometimes demoniac.
So that one detail makes them demoniac. Yeah, sometimes there's an acknowledgement of God, but it's really not an acknowledgement of God. Like in legal contracts, this contract shall not be binding in the event of acts of God, by which they mean natural disasters, acts of God, and so on. The lawyers who drafted it are probably the most impious sharks in the ocean there, but it's sort of conventional terminology, acts of God, some power beyond what we can handle, something beyond our control, that's God, or acts of God. But they don't really acknowledge a personality of Godhead. They're certainly not going to surrender to the personality of Godhead. It's just a sort of almost conventional way of speaking. Or, all right, maybe they may, on taking it another way, they acknowledge that there's a supreme controller, a supreme force, that there's destiny, and so on. But again, that's all quite vague and essentially impersonal, or at least vague. So when Krishna is standing there in front of them, they don't get it. They're talking about how we're all subject to the will of the Supreme Lord, but they don't recognize the Supreme Lord in their midst. So again, that's due to their impiety and their stubborn obstinacy. Is that okay? Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I'm beginning to see, I'm very ignorant, but I'm beginning to see how the Bhagavatam teaches us.
How?
How the Bhagavatam is teaching us.
How the Bhagavatam, you're beginning to see how the Bhagavatam is teaching us.
A bulb has just gone up in my mind. Further to Chitraleka's point.
Hold on a second,
Okay.
They're drowning you out there.
Further to Chitraleka's point, so nicely put, it seems like we're like Rukmi, that we're foolish like him, actually. We keep going even though the odds are against us. Krishna is the Supreme. So seeing it in black and white, written like this, it seems so obvious to us that Rukmi is so foolish.
Yes.
And so are we. Certainly we.
Yes,
thank you.
That's a good connection to draw. We can all see how foolish Rukmi is, but unless we connect the dots, we won't see who it is that's like Rukmi. And that's us. Thank you. And this is your last night here, isn't it?
It is.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I wish I could stay longer for just these classes.
It's been our good fortune that you've been here. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. So, shall we have kirtan? No one seems sure. Let's have kirtan. Who would like to lead? You lead. Okay. Do we have any instruments? What do we have? Kartals. We didn't bring the drum. Okay, we have kartals.
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Prabhupada ki Jai.
Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shriva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Navadip Dham ki Jai, Jagannath Puri ki Jai, Gangamai ki Jai, Jamunamai ki Jai, Tulsi Devi ki Jai, Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Thank you all again. We'll meet here again tomorrow at 5:30, half an hour later than usual, as we did today. And then we'll revert to our usual schedule, 5 to 6:30. We have books have come again, so those who might be interested in getting a book, we have them. And be sure to take some prasadam before you go. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.